Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my week number 12 quarterback start or sit decisions for every single matchup in week number 12. But before we can get into things here, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure they leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. It is important to also know, before we dive on into things here, Michael Phelps style, that there are a bunch of teams on bye. The Falcons, the Bills, the Bengals, the Jaguars, the Saints, and the Jets. So 6 teams on bye. We've got the bye apocalypse. So there's going to be more slim pickings at the quarterback position as well as all of the positions this week. So make sure if you have players on those teams, you get them out of your lineup. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 12 quarterback start or sit decisions for the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. Now, for the Browns, Cleveland Browns quarterback Famous Jameis was cooking up a humongous performance up against the New Orleans Saints as the quarterback number 6 in New Orleans. Now, he had 30 completions on 46 attempts for 395 yards and 2 touchdowns with 1 rush for 8 yards. Now, I am one of the biggest Jameis Winston fans there is, but up against a Steelers defense that allows the second lowest amount of points on a per game basis to the quarterback position, and a defense that just had Lamar Jackson in shackles, the crab leg thief himself, Jameis Winston, belongs on your bench. For the Steelers, Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson was Mr. Limited up against the Baltimore Ravens, as he did not play well in a wet dream matchup against their division rival. Now, his play was good enough for them to win, but ultimately, it's not like the team won because Russell Wilson had this amazing effort. They won because the defense stood on their head and Russell Wilson was okay enough for them to win the game. Now, we have seen Russ have a great game in his debut with the Steelers. After that, he had a bad game. And then, coming out the bye, there was a great game up against the Commanders, and then last week, a rough game up against the Ravens. So if you notice, he has a great game, then a down game, then a great game, then a down game. So if you're following the pattern here, he should go nuclear, he should go ballistic, he should go bananas up against the Cleveland Browns. But ultimately, this is a division rivalry matchup, and I think the teams will play it close here. I think they're going to play each other tough, and I think starting Russell Wilson and banging the drum aggressively for him as this top 12 quarterback is crazy. Now, you can definitely play him. He's a top 18 quarterback, but he's in the quarterback 2 range, closer to quarterback 16, 17, or 18. Moving now to Sunday, the 1 p.m. slate of games, the Kansas City Chiefs at the Carolina Panthers. Now, all of America outside of Chiefs fans are going to be rooting for Bryce Young to get his 3rd win in a row up against the Chiefs. Bryce has played so much better recently, and winning a David versus Goliath matchup for the Panthers would be awesome. Ultimately, though, I don't live in delusion land, right? And I think that the Panthers are going to get folded like Ben Askren did by Jorge Masvidal. Obviously, we all hope that the Kansas City Chiefs take a big fat L, the 2nd L in a row. But again, while we can hope, while we can want that, that's not a guarantee, and it is very unlikely to happen. Prior to the bye in Germany up against the Giants, Young was 14 of 25 for 126 yards and a touchdown. He has yet to have a top 16 quarterback game on the season, and against a great Chiefs defense, I expect Bryce to struggle mightily, so you gotta sit him down. For Patrick Mahomes, he has played a lot better over the last 4 weeks, and he's definitely gotten a solid boost by the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is now on the team. Now, last week was a doozy up against the Bills. Bro was turning the ball over like it was his job. He was the quarterback 17 in Buffalo, 23 completions on 33 attempts for 196 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 INTs. Against the Panthers in such a great matchup, though, while Mahomes definitely hasn't lived up to expectations, I definitely believe he should be able to finish as a low-end quarterback 1. Next up, we move to the cold like Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. Now, Mono Man Sam cooked last week like his name was Chef Boyardee up against the Titans as the quarterback 9. He was 20 of 32 for 246 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as having 8 rushes for 18 yards and an additional rushing touchdown. So 3 total touchdowns, no turnovers for Mr. Darnold. Now, I am normally mighty fine, right, with playing Sam Darnold. Even with some games that haven't been the best this season, Sam Darnold has been relatively reliable. But this week, he's facing up against a Bears defense that is ranked number 1. They are the best defense against quarterbacks in terms of points per game. So I can't give my vote of confidence as a start if you're debating Darnold versus Russ, or Darnold versus one of my lower-end quarterback starts. If you wanted to say, Nick, I'd rather play Darnold, then I don't think that's that crazy of an argument, but ultimately he doesn't make the cut of a top 18 quarterback, which is the parameters for being a start. Now, Caleb Williams hasn't thrown a touchdown since week 6. And spoiler alert, it's now week fucking 12. He looked better last week, but he still didn't throw a touchdown. And now he is going up against an even better defense than he faced last week with the Packers. I hope Caleb figures it out. I hope getting rid of Shane Waldron figures this all out. And it's all good. It's all gravy in the Navy. But as of right now, you can't play Caleb Williams. Next up, we move to the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. Now, Will Levis has been playing better as of recently, and I'm glad he is because that's made him be able to elevate a guy like Calvin Ridley. But while he is playing better, he still isn't playing great. Last week, he was the quarterback 20 up against the Vikings, 17 of 31 for 295 yards and a touchdown with an interception. He also had 7 rushes for 18 yards. The Texans defense is good enough to make me have zero interest in Will Levis, even during the bye-apocalypse that we're experiencing right now. For CJ Stroud, no matter how great the matchup is, no matter on if the defense is spreading its legs for the taking, consensually, of course, CJ Stroud has continued to disappoint week in and week out. He has had just 2 games this season inside of the top 8. And based upon the fact that a lot of you drafted him inside the top 6, maybe even the top 5 at the quarterback position, he has been a huge letdown. And he's only had 6 of 11 games inside of the top 18. Now, I still think CJ Stroud is a great quarterback, and there's been injuries to the players around him, like Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, and maybe Nico Collins being fully healthy will be able to lift CJ Stroud up, but based on what we've seen recently, you cannot rank him inside the top 12, even if you love this matchup up against the Titans. He is in that quarterback 14 to 18 range. Next up, we got the Detroit Lions at the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Jared Goff played so well last week that I damn near blew a load in my pants watching that greatness. It was like I was feeling like John Gruden. I was feeling real nicey watching Jared Goff. Now, it was a little bit disrespectful when they went for it on 4th down, up 20 zillion points. I believe they were up 30 points at that point. Kind of putting the nail in the coffin there, but honestly, it was kind of funny. Goff was the quarterback 1 last week, 29 attempts, 24 completions, 412 yards, and 4 touchdowns, and he also had 4 rushes for 21 yards. Goff still can't be a guy that you truly trust due to just how effective the run game is. And when I say fully trust, I mean fully trust him as like this locked and loaded top 8, top 10 guy because David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles are so dominant. But when you give a guy like Goff a matchup that is softer than a pair of triple D titties, I am feeling real good about Jared Goff, the Goffinator, as a top 8 quarterback. Now, Anthony Richardson in boxing or UFC terms is like a fighter who could go in there and knock a motherfucker out, starch him in the first round. But if they don't do that, by the end of the second round, they're gassed. More UFC terms, right? Because the second round of a boxing fight, if you're gassed there, you just really, unless you're like 60 years old like Mike Tyson, that shouldn't be happening, right? So, or UFC terms, right? But either he has that crazy knockout power, but he doesn't have the tank, the gas engine, the gas tank to get him far enough, right? So if you don't knock him out in the first round, you're shit out of luck. So he's either, Richardson, gonna bend the defense over a table, or he's going to fuck you over so hard that you can't sit in a chair correctly for a week. Last week, he went nuclear, ballistic up against the Jets. Quarterback 4, 20 of 30 for 272 yards and a touchdown. 10 rushes for 32 yards, and not one, but 2 rushing touchdowns. Going up against a Lions team that allows the 6th lowest amount of points to the quarterback position, this is a risky bet. This is a risky proposition. But for the upside alone, Anthony Richardson will be a high-end quarterback too. Next up, we got the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. Now, Tua Tagovailoa had me ready to pour some honey on him as the quarterback 10 last week. 28 of 36 for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns. It had me more chubbed up than the first time I visited a strip club in GTA 4. This was Tua's best game on the season, and it was downright beautiful as a Dolphins fan. Now, against the Patriots, I view him as a low-end quarterback 1. Tua is one of those guys, kind of like Goff, right, where they're a better quarterback in real life than in fantasy, right? You're not going to see Jared Goff go out there, juke a motherfucker out of his ankles, hurdle over someone like Josh Allen, and run into the end zone. You're not going to see that with Tua, right? Limited rushing upside, and because both of those guys don't need to throw for a zillion yards for the team to win, and both of those guys have productive running backs. Against the Patriots, a team he has played well against over the course of his career, he should be able to finish as a low-end quarterback 1. For Drake May, he has been a top 18 quarterback in 3 straight games. While his weapon core definitely isn't the best, he has still been able to put up solid fantasy numbers. Now, the Dolphins' defense is incredibly hit or miss weekly. Up against the Rams, we looked unstoppable. The defense was locking them down. They didn't score a single touchdown. But the Raiders, they got a little bit spicy against us, so it's very confusing, very bipolar defense, right? But I will give you the stat. The Dolphins' defense is 3rd best against quarterbacks in terms of points per game. So quarterbacks are not playing well against the Dolphins. So I don't love Draco May here, but with 6 teams on bye, he is a low-end quarterback start in the 16 to 18 range. The upside's obviously there because Drake May has played so well. He has some rushing upside, but this is far from a matchup that I'm going to oogle and ogle over. Next up, we move to game number 7 here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield at the New York Football Giants and Tommy DeVito. But before we talk about the Italian Stallion and Baker Mayfield and the rest of the games at the quarterback position, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious, you'll be able to claim your free pick, which on Tuesday or Wednesday is going to be Stephen Curry higher than half of a total point, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So you sign up using promo code Notorious or click on the link in the video description or in the pinned comment. You'll get your free pick. Now, if you're watching this on Wednesday, it will still be Steph Curry. But if you're watching this on Thursday, it'll be a quarterback higher than half of a total yard. And if you're watching on Saturday or Sunday, it's either going to be an NFL player higher than half a total yard or an NBA player higher than half of a total point. You match that with any other player playing in the NBA, not on the same team, or in the NFL, not on the same team. And if both your picks hit, you will get 3 times what you put into your pick'em. If you do multiple other picks, they all have to hit, but the payout will be higher. So again, sign up using promo code Notorious or click on the link in the video description to get your free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So back on into things here. The Buccaneers going up against the New York Football Giants. Now, the update on Mike Evans has been positive on him attempting to return from injury this week that had him missing the last 3 games with the hamstring. Now, this will give Baker a solid bump up in my rankings, even if Mike Evans ends up looking a little bit sluggish in his first game back. Prior to the bye up against the 49ers, it was the worst game of the season. He was the quarterback 23, but before that, even without Godwin, even without Evans, Mayfield was still an incredibly reliable quarterback. This week, up against a not-so-great Giants defense, Baker is going to look to right his wrongs that he had up against the 49ers and finish as a top 10 quarterback up against the Giants in MetLife. Even without Baker, or even without Baker, even without Mike Evans, I would still have him ranked inside the top 10. Now, Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, the Italian Stallion, will make his first start of the season as they voted Daniel Jones off the island and told horsecock Drew Lock to kick rocks and be the quarterback 2 on the team. DeVito had a few decent games here and there last year in fantasy, and I will root for the guy because he grew up near me, he went to high school near me, but ultimately, even against a team that allows the most amount of points to the quarterback position, starting Tommy DeVito is too rich for my blood. And next up, we got the Dallas Cowboys at the left. Hands up. Who are we? The Commanders? Now, for the Cowboys, how about them Cowboys? Despite Cooper Rush not looking good at all last week up against the Texans, the team is still riding with him again as the starter in Week 12 with a Trey Lance package of plays designed for him. So we'll get to see some Trey Lance. Rush, even while looking like trash, looking terrible. He was the quarterback 18 last week. He's going to let it fly again. He's going to throw the ball a bunch again. But based on what was an okayish start for fantasy, I trust my eyes more than I trust the stats. And my eyes tell me that starting Cooper Rush would be clinically fucking insane. So you're going to sit him. For Jaden Stormy Daniels, he was a huge letdown last week. And it's been 2 games now where he's been a huge letdown. Like the time I learned that Santa Claus isn't actually real. And my mom was writing me the letters as old Saint Nick instead of the fat bastard himself. That was a very disappointing moment in my childhood. Over the last 2 games, back-to-back games, he was the quarterback 24. Shout out Kobe. Quarterback 24. Now, if he was playing up against an elite defense, I might be getting a little nervous. Be like, whoa, maybe we crowned Jaden Stormy Daniels too quickly. Maybe we gotta worry. I might worry. But up against a Cowboys defense that just got carved up like the fucking Thanksgiving turkey, I am feeling real nicey about a bounce-back top 6 finish for Jaden Daniels. Next up, we move to the 4 p.m. slate on Sunday, the Denver Broncos at the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, when it comes to Big Dick Bo Nix, he hit the Falcons with his willy like Indiana Jones when he hits people with his whip, right? He was the quarterback 3 with 28 completions on 33 attempts for 307 yards and 4 touchdowns. Now, I don't want to overreact and be like, ooh, after 1 game, let me suck Bo Nix dry, baby, like my name was Sarah J. But I think there is a legit argument to be made that Bo Nix is the offensive rookie of the year, especially if he's able to keep up his play. In the last 7 games, he's been a top 12 quarterback in 5 of the games, and he's been a top 8 quarterback in 3 of 7 games, with 2 top 3 finishes, including last week. Against a Raiders defense that has more holes than an old t-shirt, Bo Nix is a top 8 quarterback in my rankings with the ability of finishing number 1 as the quarterback 1. Now, I will give Gardner Minshew II some credit because I have done nothing except for dunk on the guy all season. And honestly, he deserved it. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Victoria Cakes, I will give him credit as he did perform up against my Dolphins. He went 30 of 43 for 282 yards and 2 touchdowns with 1 INT. Now, facing an elite Broncos defense this week, this is where it all falls apart. The Jenga tower goes down and it doesn't get back up. So he'll probably go back to his old ways as like the quarterback 24 or 25. Next up, we got the 49ers at the Green Bay Packers. Now, Brock Purdy has been on fire like you're playing house rules in beer pong, right? 5 straight games inside the top 12 and 4 of 5 inside the top 8. Last week up against the Seahawks, he was 21 of 28 for 159 yards and a touchdown with 1 pick, as well as 5 rushes for 40 yards and a touchdown. Now, Purdy low-key kind of has wheels. Kind of sneaky athletic, first guy in, last guy out type of guy, right? And while I don't think he's the next Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts running the rock or someone like that, of course he's not that good at running the ball, but it does increase his fantasy football value. People will always take a dump on the chest of Brock Purdy and say, oh, he's a system quarterback, or whatever the fuck they want to say about him. But even if that is true, even if it's he's so good in the system, as long as he's good in fantasy, that's all that matters to us. Give the guy some credit for his play. And I got him up against the Packers as a top 8 quarterback for Jordan. Love me tender, love me sweet. Last week up against the Bears. The number one defense in the NFL in terms of lowest amount of points per game allowed to the quarterback position. Love was the quarterback 1-1, the quarterback 11, 13 of 17 for 261 yards and a touchdown with one pick, as well as 4 rushes for 18 yards and a touchdown. Prior to last week, Love was really struggling, right? He was dealing with the groin injury, not putting up good games, but now with the injury on the back burner, with the injury behind him, I think he's going to continue to be a fringe top 12 guy. This week, I got him exactly there in the quarterback 11 through 13 range. Next up, we got the final game before Sunday night and Monday Night Football, the 2 primetime games. We got the Cardinals at the Seahawks. Now, prior to the bye week, Kyler was nearly perfect against the Jets at home in Arizona. 22 of 24 for 266 yards and a touchdown, with 3 rushes for 21 yards and 2 touchdowns as the quarterback 4. The Seahawks defense has not been great this season, and honestly, that might be putting things nicely, right? Kyler should be able to take advantage of that and finish as a top 5 quarterback. My only worry here is how hot and cold Kyler has been. I'm just going to read off all of his finishes, starting in week 1, going all the way to his most recent game prior to the bye up against the Jets. He starts off the season, quarterback 15. And he's the quarterback 1, and the quarterback 17, 24. That's like, oh, what's happening with Kyler? He's not really playing that well. And he's quarterback 5. It's like, oh, Kyler's back. And quarterback 25. Ooh. And the quarterback 5. And the quarterback 12. It's like, whoa, maybe we're getting some consistency out of Baker. Maybe it's Baker out of Kyler. Maybe now it's Kyler time. Kyler time, right? And then you know what happens? He says, fuck no, baby. Quarterback 30. And then comes back up against the Jets as the quarterback 3. So hopefully coming out of the bye week, we find more consistency. He is a must-start quarterback on the week, and this could be a high-scoring game. So he's inside my top 5. For Geno Smith, he didn't play his best up against the 49ers, even though the Seahawks had a game-winning drive late after Bosa exited. Geno was 25 of 32 for 221 yards and a pick with 4 rushes for 29 yards and a touchdown. Arizona is pretty middle of the road against quarterbacks, and Geno's been a top 12 quarterback in 6 of 10 games. I think he does that again this week as a low-end quarterback 1. Now we move to Sunday Night Football, because you waited all day for Sunday night. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Los Angeles Rams. Now, last week, Jalen Hurts put on his worst game since September as the quarterback 15. He still had a good game, but based on what we've seen Hurts doing to defenses, and based upon the matchup being up against the Commanders, he definitely let you down. On a more positive note, though, he's still on the Eagles, an elite offense with amazing weapons, and he has scored 9 rushing touchdowns over the last 5 weeks. 5 games, I guess, technically, because they've had the bye in between then, I believe. And he's had at least 1 rushing touchdown in all of those games. So facing the Rams, he should be able to get back to his usual self as a top 5 quarterback. For Matthew Stafford, after his dud up against the Dolphins as the quarterback 20, he followed that up with a surgical performance up against the Patriots in Foxborough. 18 of 27 for 295 yards, and not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdowns in that game as the quarterback number 5. After performing like a character in Grey's Anatomy, he looks to build on that momentum this week. But the problem with that narrative is that the Eagles allow the 4th lowest points to quarterbacks in the NFL on a per-game basis, and the Eagles' defense is looking better than they did early on in the season, and they just locked up Jaden Daniels, so that leaves Stafford in a spot where he's a last-ditch effort, right? You're in the bye-apocalypse, your team is getting diddled by the fact that you have a million buys, and you got to throw up a fucking shot from half-court Kobe and hope it goes in. Sure, the upside is there. We know Stafford's a great quarterback. We know he has Puka. We know he has Cooper Kupp. We know DeMarcus Robinson's a little bit feisty. They have some tight ends, right? Skills there. The players around him are good. But pretending like, oh, he's going to be a top 12 quarterback again is fucking foolish. So, based on what the Eagles have done to quarterbacks all season, he's in that quarterback 17 to 18 range. Final game, the Harbaugh Bowl, the Ravens at the Chargers. Now, last week was a disaster for Lamar. After 10 straight games as a top 12 quarterback and 7 games inside the top 6, Lamar went up against the Steelers and completely shit the bed as the quarterback 23. The offense looked incompetent, and Lamar's record being not so hot against the Steelers, I believe it's around 2-5. That's starting to make a lot of sense now. Just seems like he gets the yips against him, or he's, maybe he has to take a shit like he did in that one game where he left the game like he was that guy on the Celtics back in the day, right? So, can't blame it all on Lamar. It's not all Lamar. It's the coaching. It's guys dropping the ball wide open. I'm not going to panic. We've seen him be so great. No need to worry. Don't you worry, child. Joe Burrow had a good game against this defense last week, so Lamar should be able to bounce back as a top 5 quarterback and potentially win the Harbaugh Bowl. Now, Justin Herbert, the pervert, has been a top 12 quarterback in 4 straight games, and facing up against a Ravens defense that allows the 4th most amount of points per game to the quarterback position, I expect Herbert to pop off again. Against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football, he was the quarterback 8 with 17 completions on 36 attempts. If he had 2 more attempts, it would have been 17-38. Yeah, baby. For 297 yards and 2 touchdowns. That joke's very relevant in 2024. He had 2 touchdowns, 5 rushes for 65 yards. Herbert, using his legs more as of recently, has increased his ceiling. Kind of like Brock Purdy, who we talked about a little bit earlier. Matched with the Chargers team throwing the ball more, I believe this game has a lot of upside up against Baltimore, and I think Herbert could end up having his best game of the year, and I got him inside of the top 5 at the quarterback positions. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you end up enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And make sure you guys check out Underdog, promo code Notorious to get your free pick, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. I love you guys more than you will ever know. Thank you guys so much for the support this season. Let's hope to get you guys all to eat a W, Jameis Winston style, and win your league. So I love you guys more than you'll ever know. Hope you have a great one. Shout out Wayne Gretzky. And as always, good boy.